let's see, I need to get the power on this so it don't drain.
Yeah, that'll eat everything up real fast.
Yeah.
Is that little power strip going to be enough? I got a bigger.
Right here?
Hanging. No, that one up there. I got a bigger power strip.
For what?
Well, if you got multiple things.
No, that's it. We're good to go. Today is a day that we just kind of screw around and do whatever, and I'm gonna work on my airplane here. I just still don't know what I'm gonna call it.
And I'm going to be working on a few things. So working on these flaps.
What? You don't know Kevlar hinges?
No Kevlar, no sewn hinges. But what I did do is, he's got one continuous pin. Flaps come off. I was going to do this with a little short piece of wire in here with a piece of carbon, little thin carbon rod. I come in here in between, ran short, so it'd be a little piece of carbon rod, a pin, rod, a pin, through the hinges. And Sparky just sort of talked me into doing this with just a one solid piece of music wire in there and make the hinges removable. I made them like this because I want to be able to finish the airplane without the hinges in the flaps. I can be in a wing all they want. So doing this and this guarantees the alignment of all these holes that are on center. So I made a jig, and well, it's basically a router table for a Dremel saw, and I stacked saw blades up until I could stack this groove up in here. The diameter of this outside tube that I put in here, it's a carbon fiber tube, about 1/8 inch OD, 1/16 inch ID, and I cut a trough in there, the depth that I needed, which is half the diameter of these hinges.
3/16.
It's 3/16 deep. A little over 3/16 of an inch deep because you got the wall thickness of this little tube. So I cut the trough down in there, and I glued the tube in, then I come back through and cut a piece of balsa wood that would fit down in there and fill that trough that I just cut in there. So now I got the tube glued in there, the piece of wood glued in there, and then I sanded it to shape using one of my little sanders that I made. Which came out perfect. Little sanders. Are these little boogers. Then I took a couple pieces of brass tubing and I cut it in half. So I had a half tube, a couple different sizes, 3/8. This is 5/8, I think. And I put another piece of tube. I soldered it on the top for a little handle. Line it with sandpaper. And this little piece makes a perfect half round shape for that. You can make these any length you want to, but it gets pretty hard to Dremel that in half, or unless you got another way of cutting it. But you don't want exactly a complete half circle, because what happens is when you start tipping it, it'll start eating a groove in the edge. So you want a little less than half, so you got a little wiggle room here to line up before you start eating a groove in it. So I did very carefully. And I set the flaps like this, and I took a plane and I planed the edges off of it, about 3 swipes on each little hard edge, and that took away most of the material. And then in about 10 swipes, I did 5 this direction, and I turned the flap around and did 5 this direction, and that helps sort of even that out. And I put an ink line on here right down the center line, so I knew that as soon as I started touching that ink line with the sanding, that this flat that was on here was coming out of it. So I used that ink line as a guide with sanding, and that's about 120 grit paper in there. But anyway, that finished that off real nice. You can't hardly even see that in there. put my plywood clip on the end. None of this is glued in here yet. This also works because once you get all these hinges on here, and you can tell by the way this goes in there. If I could see. Let's just start getting them lined up. They just sort of. Yeah, it's all the way through it. They're not glued in there, but they're floppy. You can't get much better than that. This one's the same way. It's done the same way.
What? Kevlar's not that floppy?
No, not much is. So he uses these little. These are his hinges. These are 3/8 for 3/8 inch wood. I made these because I didn't. By the time you drill this out for an 1/8 inch hole in here, I thought it was a little thin. Sparky uses them just like this, and he swears they're good enough, but whatever the reason, I made some a little bit bigger with a sort of a squared off deal. The full thickness of my trailing edge of my wing, and then half rounded it off. Now, I have to massage these a little bit. I use this pin for these to line the hole for these. So my control horn, when it's complete, everything ready, all the center lines, everything will be right on, up and down, in and out, the whole shebang. So good. This is the best setup of this I've done yet. I'm very happy, very happy with this setup. And then we're in the process. We're working on motor mount, which this is our typical build, how we do these things. We mill out these, you can see we mill out these maple motor mounts, and then we install cross grain. It's about 1/4 inch cross grain. You can do pieces, you can run it full length, but it's grain running crossways. And then we fill with an 1/8 inch top and bottom. It doesn't have to be solid. I just made this solid because I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to cut this out. So I made everything solid this time, because I think I'm going to mill down here about 1/8 inch and mill part of this out to let the tank sort of nestle up in there another 1/8 inch, or maybe 3/16 inch. And because all this different grain direction and cross grain will still have a really stiff thing. Once that milled out, it'll get a piece of 1/64 inch plywood over the top of it, and a piece of 3/16 on the top. Now this thicker wood on the top allows you to carve this up, your nose section up in the front.
Without running into the maple.
Yeah, without running into the maple, because whenever you get that maple showing through, then bad spots start happening. As you never sand that the same as all the wood around it, and it'll leave a lump. And especially once it gets out in the sun, you may not see it now, but you'll see it eventually. Get out there and let it bake on the runway for a while, and you'll see it. But
I will guarantee you that I can walk out on a flight line and point right to where the motor mount is.
Yeah. And then we're milling these little pieces of 1/8 inch aluminum. It's not quite an 1/8 inch now, but it's about 2 inches by 3/8. Got the holes for mounting that in there. No motor mount holes yet. But we mill these sides parallel, and everything's the same size. You know, the holes are drilled on center, 1/8 inch in from the 1/4 inch in from the ends. And I know that the aluminum is probably pretty good. These things came out of this. This is sort of a piece of tempered aluminum that I had, and it just so happens that it came that width. It's 2 inches. So I lucked out. So I got to do saw cut that, and then I mill them to the same width. and then I turn them in there, and then I put it down in there, mill one side flat, and then turn them over, and then mill the other side to be parallel with the first milled side. And I'm just barely taking anything off these things, but they start off at an 1/8 inch thick, and they end up
At an 1/8 inch thick.
almost an 1/8 inch thick still. You can't hardly even tell. A couple pieces of paper thinner, but they're identical that way. They're all set up in the same machine, done sort of one right after another. So pretty uniform setup. So got that going, got this going. Now I've got to try to find some music wire because I think I only got one piece that size, which fits perfect in this this little tube, this little carbon tube, and that's stiffer than I'll get out me, and that helps the stiffness of that flap along the leading edge. I think I might, haven't decided yet, I might embed a piece of carbon in this trailing edge, which is about a...
How much do the flaps weigh now? That's
right now,
yeah, that's where it's at. How much does it weigh? Is it still lighter than the composite thing you made?
yeah, these are 2.5, I think, right now, the way they sit.
So that's 1.25 ounces a piece. That's, well.
And then it's the carbon fiber trailing edge is a gram. 1 gram.
Yeah, gram here, gram there. Pretty soon we're
Yeah, I
grammed up.
understand. I see you doing the same thing. This is why it's essential that you build these things absolutely as light.
2.9.
2.9. Absolutely as light as you can, and that's the only way that'll allow you to play around a little bit here and there.
So that's 2.9, right? Is that that's the outboard? That's way my flap. This is
both,
finished.
That's both of them.
Finished with the hinges on it.
That was both of them. 2.9.
Okay, grab my other one off there. This will make you sick. 2.9 on.
Now these haven't been sanded to shape or anything yet. They're still just pretty much a full thickness.
1.8.
Yeah.
Make you sick. Finished with ready to
Finished with
paint.
tissue ready to paint.
Yeah, 1.8 ounces ready to paint.
Yeah. That's this one, isn't it?
Well, I'll leave them off. Well, I still got to lay out where the goes. And if you, I mean,
Yeah, this is 5.3 pound wood, unsanded. That's probably 4 pound wood
yeah,
or 3.5 pound wood.
4.
Makes a difference, guys. You can't substitute. I mean, you can go a little bit thinner, but I don't necessarily think it equates out to being the same.
Well, Danny's gonna find out.
Not to mention here's the problem. And here's the problem that I've come to see myself with using thinner wood. I'm already building airplanes, these big airplanes, out of all 16th inch wood. And let me tell you, you have 0 sanding room, 0. You can barely even level off a butt joint in the wood, barely. And most of the time you're going to revert to using fillers. If you can go to 3/32 inch wood instead of 16th, if you can find the good light stuff, that's probably the easier way to go, I'd say. I mean, it gives you it doesn't give you a lot more sanding room, but it does give you some.
Viper 4 was when I started using all 3/32 wood.
Well, now you can't hardly find this stuff.
Yeah, you just.
So if you're using 5 pound 3/32 wood opposed to 5 pound 16th inch wood, the 16th inch wood weighs less. Still 5 pounds, but there's less wood. So, use at your own risk. I don't know.
Well, we got 2 likes.
This wing is not made out of any kind of lightweight wood whatsoever. This is all
Hey, Alexander.
5+ pound wood.
Alexander, where are you from again? Sweden? Belgium? Someplace over there?
But it's definitely some neat stuff that we got going on here. A little bit different approach. My biggest thing, this is
Scotland.
hinging these things, and
Yeah, we're gonna do my next one like that.
we've been working on this design a little bit, which I think we're hitting on something here. This is absolutely the best yet. Takes a little while to get things set up, but once you get it set up, you can go through these things and make whatever you want. You come up easy way to set it up.
I tried your original little teeth in there. I didn't like that. I like this.
Well, this has got an actual tube in it. Originally, I just cut a saw groove down here, just as thin of a cut as I could. And I just took my little short pieces of wire and stuck in there and then run end grain down in all of it and sandwich. Well, in essence, it doesn't give you a lot of bearing surface in there. You got a 16th inch piece of wood end grain in there that's your bearing surface. Well, with this method, you got this carbon tube in there, runs full length, then you cut all these, you cut the tube wherever when you cut these hinge slots out, you cut that tube. And I think that makes for a much better. That pin doesn't have to do anything. All these little hinges are bushed. They have a little brass bushing in them.
And them are hard to do.
And that little piece of brass tubing that these are done with is a pain. And that's flared over on both sides.
Hey, Gary.
So it's cut just a little thicker than an 1/8 inch, and then it's flared on each end, so it can't come out of there. It's locked in there. And then that wire runs through them, a little short piece of wire. So we had that little thin bearing surface, which isn't anything. And I used super glue in there for one reason, that was to harden all that stuff up. Now, we yet to know over a lifetime how that system's going to hold up. But I think this system right here is the most foolproof that we've come up with so far. And like I said, when you've seen these things, they go in there and take them for granted. These aren't glued in there yet, but these things just flop under their own weight. And when all's said and done, this horn will be attached to this and everything will be centered up and they'll flop just like they are right now.
You do the stabilizer same way, right?
Stab's going to be done the same way, yeah.
And the way you got this set up with the horn, I guess the fuselage comes to right here.
The fuselage is probably going to come to these lines, or to these lines,
right.
These little short lines.
Right.
And then these flaps come to where we got that, to that line, to the long line. The flaps come to here, and then they'll have a little 1/4 inch piece in there on the side of the fuselage just to fill that gap.
The nice thing about this setup is that that's the absolute lightest you're going to make it, the horn, because it's narrow, because my horns go way out here. So
yeah, the longer you make that, also that makes it, well, the longer it is, the easier it'll tweak.
Yeah.
The shorter it is, the more rigid it is. So you really want to make all your control horns absolutely as short as you can make them. Now these length of arms, going back in here 1 inch is probably plenty sufficient.
Overkill. You see how long mine are.
When you make them short, if you don't have a real good piece of hardwood in here, what you have is a tweak problem. If you do need to tweak them, they're a lot harder to tweak.
Yeah.
Because you've got a short arm. And
well, you make them out of drill rod, so they're easier to tweak.
But yeah, using drill rod makes them a lot nicer. It's strong enough to hold them solid, but forgiving enough that you can tweak them and they'll stay.
Yep, that's turned out nice. Real nice. Nice enough I'm going to do it myself.
Well, there's a testament to how these are.
Well, I tried your other way, and I did 2 airplanes like that. I never do it that way again.
Yeah, I did a couple planes. No, yeah, I think 2 airplanes like that.
This way here on this airplane is my old way, but it's not as good as that because you can't paint the little thingies.
Right, or sand in there or anything like that. And I wanted to have these off as long as I could so I could finish these little corners in there. And this will do it. Now, all these little inside edges here, I've taken thin super glue and coated inside, outside, all around the outside to all these cutouts to harden those areas up. Now, I'll lightly sand it. I mean lightly, just touch it. And I'll put probably 2 or 3 coats of super glue on those and lightly sand it in between every coat just to harden those up so that when you go messing around with it, it stays nice.
Listen to what Winship says. John has a good-looking plane taking shape, like the sanding tools John has made. The Bob Ross of sanding should be proud.
Thank you, Dan. Let's see, those are mine.
That one goes right here.
Is that one bushed?
I don't know.
I think those are the 2 I had for that. I wonder what happened to them.
I stole it.
Yeah, right. Shop ate something else again. My shop is notorious for eating things, so.
I think that's what you had in there. The unbushed one.
I might not have these bushed yet. I think I got a set that are bushed. No, these aren't bushed yet. That's all right. Believe you me, I cut little teeny pieces of 16th inch ID brass tubing about a heavy 1/8 of an inch thick. And I put it in there and I flare out both sides of those little boogers in there now.
Well,
you can find 16th inch ID eyelets. That's the way to go. You only have to flare one side then.
Okay, John has made his flaps 3/8 of an inch, which is correct. What's the width of the cap strips on John's airplane? 1/4 inch, which is incorrect. Use 3/16. You leave one panel of wing cap strips off by going 3/16.
You really do.
Well, yeah. A 16th, a 16th, a 16th, you just start adding up.
It adds up. Same way with this trailing edge sheeting. This trailing edge sheeting here is 1 inch.
Yes, make it 3/4.
If you make it 3/4, you lose one of these pieces.
Yep.
So, and the extra length, the extra 1/4 inch in all your cap strips, if you make them 3/16 of an inch wide, doesn't add up to anything that you're losing. You're losing a lot more than what you're putting back into it. So, it's not a diminishing process. It actually really works. These are just some of the things that we're working on. We've also got some other stuff that's in the making, but it's not really enough to even start talking about it yet.
Let's see what this weighs today. I wish it was finished. It's 33 ounces.
33 ounces.
Yeah. 2.12.2 pounds.
We're good.
It's 16 is 16 is 32. No, wait a minute. 32, it's 44 ounces. 44 ounces. my airplane here is 44 ounces right now, so we're going to add at least 10. Probably,
64.
it'll be close to 60.
Be right, yeah, you'd be pushing 60.
But it's got the big block motor in it, the PA-75.
Yeah, you got the horsepower. Still 60. Most of these airplanes that size are coming in 67, 74, 80. Proof is in the pudding when you paint the puppy. Now, if you can, and I guarantee you that this airplane's going to end up with a 6-ounce finish on it. I just about guarantee that it's 6 ounces. It may come out 7 ounces, but I rather doubt it. He's really hip on these lightweight finishes, and he's got a system down that works. Gotta admit, it works. Gotta go on the diet, guys. Especially if you're using dope. Can't tell you about, composite stuff, this base coat, clear coat stuff.
Don't do it. It's heavy.
It's just, unless you really know what you're doing, or you get some really good tutoring from somebody that's very well versed in automotive paints, I'd accept, I'd say talk to Bobby Hine or some of those guys that are more up to date on the proper way to do these.
Here's how to convince yourself that 1 coat of paint is not 1 ounce of automotive. Automotive paint does not gas off. So whatever you spray there stays there. So what I want you to do is take your automotive paint and put it on a scale. And you're gonna fill up the cup that much, because that's what it's gonna take. You can't do automotive paint with 1 ounce. Fill up the cup and weigh it. And that's how much finish you're gonna put on. If you put 2 coats on, that's how much finish. You're gonna do a 16-ounce finish.
Yeah, it doesn't gas off, that's for sure.
It's plastic. It's terrible.
There's nothing more to be said about that. It's just
dope. You're gonna lose about 40% of its weight.
Yeah.
And
in our case, when you get down to the final finishes, heck, you're 75% thinner.
Yeah.
You're really putting just thinner on, almost straight thinner in the final case, the tinted thinner, clear tinted thinner. But yeah, we thin that dope. You start off with a 50-50, basically a 50-50 mix. And as you add on, you just add thinner. So your 50-50 mix to begin with, by the time you get 4 coats of dope out of that 50-50 mix, you've thinned it 3 times or 4 times. And you basically add, if you got that much dope in that jar, you add that much thinner to it. So you thinned it again 50%, then you thin it again 50%. And by the time you get to the last coat, that's all you got. Whatever you start off with, that's all you got. That's what you end up with.
This, Craig, here's the blades. John, there's your blades.
Thanks very much, Craig. Much appreciated. Surgical blades, number 11 X-Acto knife blades. Sparky doesn't know about this yet, because I just figured I'd tell him when he come over here. But also got a box of 100 screws.
Where'd you get them?
From Craig.
I didn't get none.
And we got some control wire, some hardened steel, 8 air hardened 1/8 inch, 3 32nd inch wire for control horns. So we got plenty of wire for some control horns, plenty of knives, plenty of screws. So we're good to go for a while. Thank you very much. We'll finish this up. Today I'll make another set of motor mount pads. And while we're doing that, you're going to be probably shaping on the cow.
I told him it's going to be about 8 hours standing.
Well, that's 8 more hours to the 84 hours it's already in there.
Got to get this down to ½ ounce. We're at, I think I'm at 1 ounce now. .9. It started at 2.5, so I've taken 50% off. Keep sanding.
And eventually you hit your goal. Cows are really funky. When you're working on them, they got to start off with a good base for one, nice and thick, and carve everything away from the outside to look like what you want, and then start on your inside stuff, which can be a royal pain sometimes.
I need to glue the sandpaper to my finger. Already it's coming off.
I tape them little points so we don't try not to break them off if need be.
Gosh. This is the secret. Ah, man, it got hot. This is the secret right here. Glued to my finger.
Yeah, kids gonna try this at home.
So we're at 9/10 now. I gotta sand 4/10 off of this. Man, I wish this airplane was done at this weight.
Pretty sweet. All right, we need to make some of these. Let's just go ahead and set up. Make some of these measurement pads.
80 grit sandpaper here, just whittling away as much material as I can. Cal needs to be a heavy 1/8 inch thick, or 3/16 thick. Started out inch thick. I've shown how to make cows. There is no better than Ted Fancher there. I'll never, I don't know. He must have patience like ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. Make nice. That's more gooder. I might make a little bit of noise here. I gotta run my shop back. That's all. Do you have a ball for the Dremel? Some type? You do? Mm-hmm.
Where's it at?
In that right top drawer right there, in that plastic box there, sort of got all the bits in it.
Wow, that's really glued on there good.
Should be in that compartment.
This one. I guess this is what Dan was talking about. What are these called?
Those are carbide tip, centered, sort of a centered tip. These things got, I mean, if you look at this, it looks like little hairs sticking out of these. They're sort of expensive. These things are about, I bet you $15 a piece.
Yeah.
For these little burrs. I call them a burr because they're more like a little grinding. And I try to keep these out of epoxy and stuff like that. If you can, they get loaded up. I guess you could soak this in acetone or something, or MEK, maybe melt some of that stuff out of there. But I keep a couple old ones around for, that kind of finishing. They still work even though they're loaded up. But I keep my new ones for just bare wood. But they work pretty good. Now here's something that I guess you can hear me. These are from a roto-zip tool. Drywallers use these things, cut out electrical outlet openings and whatnot. If you look at these, this has a long sort of spiral cutting edge, and this is more like a burr with little diamond-shaped cutters on it. This bit was this long to begin with, and I just took my cutoff tool and made it shorter. What these long bits do is they want to dance around, and you turn them to 20,000 RPM in a Dremel tool or whatever, and then they vibrate a lot. So if you cut them off, I really do not use this one very much at all, this with the spiral sort of cut in it. I find it doesn't do as good a job as this one. Much more controllable, less apt to jump around, little finer cuts, it's not as aggressive. But if you can find these, Roto-Zip, I think is what they're called. These little burrs like this work great. Just cut them off a little bit, put them in there, buy them in a 2-pack or a 4-pack, and I think that's what these come in. But I really don't use these fire bit ones at all. If that makes it easier for you to get down in there, like here. I'm going to set these up and start milling on this stuff.
If I'd have known you had this, I'd have brought 2 pieces of wood and we'd have made you some flaps.
I wanted to surprise you with my latest project. Pass it in.
It's like operation. You can't touch anything. They kept going in and out of this hole.
Yeah. You could.
And I gotta get half of the weight off of this. Where's it at?
What's the weight now?
0.9. It's a lot. So what I got here is pretty much hollowed out and smoothed out. But I need to get this all uniform now to hold it up to the light. I don't think we, oh yeah. Let's see if we can capture that. Can you see through that? You see this light right there? The whole cow has to look like that. And that's when you know you got it as light as you can get it. Actually, it's a little thin there. But we'll keep standing. Of course, then it gets fiberglass. That's what I just showed you is what's known as candling. So once again, you look right here, right there, you can see the light. This whole cowl needs to look exactly the same shade or maybe just a little darker. That's pretty thin there. That's probably a 1/16 of an inch thick. We wanted about a 3/32 all the way around, and that's as light as you're going to make it. And doing this takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of work. But if you want a light airplane, that's kind of what you got to go through. And the better the light that you have, the easier it is to do. Of course, there's nothing easy about it, but
Yeah. Labor intensive.
and the uniformity of the cowl makes a more professional looking model. When you look down inside it and everything's all the same thickness, it looks like, well, man, that guy took his time. I have sanded these out and finished them with the same finish as the outside. It's a real pain in the rear. I just get them close anymore, and I don't worry about 20-point finish on the inside, but I do paint them inside. And the only reason why I started doing this is Jim Lynch. I don't want to give him an excuse to say, well, your airplane's not painted inside. Well, no kidding. He got me on the bottom, though. That never happened again. Let's see if we made any headway. Was it 0.9? We'll turn on the grams and start counting grams here. 0.8, we're getting there. 23 grams, so I need to take, we're never going to get it down to a half ounce.
That's a tough one.
Go back and look at the cowl starting videos. This weighs 2.5 ounces. They decided they would just enter, they decided they would randomly update my system. I'm so sick of this BS security crap. It's nonsense. What it is basically is spying. Okay. Welcome back. Sorry about that, but they decided they would update my service or something. I don't know what was going on. Anyway, let's see what's been said here so far. Beautiful Cal, thank you. ¿Cómo está? Bien, bien. ¿Y tú? Okay, so now let's talk about what I was going to get at is candling. John's got one of these Harbor Freight lights. You get these for free, except it's out.
Press it again.
Oh. And you can
Pretty
see
bright. Probably not as bright as it could be.
you can see through the cowl there. Well, we need to make that whole thing so we can see through the whole thing.
It's sort of a pinkish, like you said, there's a pinkish sort of color.
Peach.
Or peach, yeah. And you get down about 1/8 inch, you start really seeing that pretty good.
Probably should have started another stream. I don't know how much time we lost in that update. No, but people, you know, they're not going to sit and look at dead air.
Very true. Losing viewership.
They need to ask you before they start updating.
Yeah, just a request. And then you can set the time whenever it's convenient for you.
Like never. Okay, I'm tired of working on this, but I'll come back to this. What I have here for exit holes is the 3 holes and the shotgun look in the front. And I will continue to work on it. It gets kind of burned out standing on the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, split it up a little bit. That's sort of what I'm doing in a way. I play around with my mill and make some mirror mount pads. And if Sparky's gonna need them, and I'll need some down the line. So while I'm at it, I'm just making 4 of them. That's 2 more airplanes. Alright, I need some shear stuff.
Very difficult. You have to get a little stick or something to sand this little lip in there. Get a flat on it. Like I said, I'm had enough sanding on the cow for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets to you after a
Go
while.
sand on another piece. See how it fits. Oh yeah, much better. We got good airflow through there. Sand on something I can see.
something that actually changes when you stand on or physically see
Yeah.
changing.
Made up my mind if I'm going to do banana wheel pants. I think I'm going to, so that it looks similar to the original. Very hard. Those are a very hard shape to do because they're bananas.
Going away.
We're about I got sandpaper coming out my ears. To stay off that $90 muffler.
Yeah, you need to give me the dimensions.
What?
Yes.
Tank?
Tank.
I wish I would have put the super fill on this like I was going to.
Yeah.
I just get burnt out, you know.
It's hard to maintain interest in this stuff and get too involved. A lot of doodads.
Let's get John that super like that. I guess I'm going to have to cut out that dead air time when I get back home to
How long do we have them?
I don't know.
Well,
There might be 30 minutes of dead air time. But I can trim that out.
one more piece for the mill.
Yeah.
One more piece here.
You got a piece of 1/2 inch, about 6 inches long, about 2 inches wide.
Now, let me tell you something. I don't have very much 1/2 inch at all. But if you look over there in that big box, the one in the far back, that big Sig Magnum box, you might have to pull it way out there to check. But that'd be the closest place I can get to.
Yeah, we got some stuff to make it out of. Piece of 3/4.
Okay, noise again.
Box out.
Do what?
What's going to happen if I take this box out? Is everything going to come down like a Jenga?
The front stuff could. I'm telling you, I don't have very much 1/2 inch stuff at all.
You got a piece of pine in here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything in that big box.
We're going to root through the junk box.
How big of a piece are you looking for?
I'm going to make them fillets, so I need, that's 3/8.
That's pretty heavy stuff.
To make it out of this, I'd waste the whole airplane. Feel that?
Yeah, that's a log, yeah. That's just not good. That's a piece of 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
Got a little glue on it.
Huh?
Got a little glue on it. There's a piece of 1/2 inch. Might be big enough. That looks like some really good stuff. Yeah. You just have to search through it.
Yeah, you got to start with 1/2, not 3/8. I think I can probably make this work. It's heavy, but I'm not going to make too big. It's lighter than that piece of pine.
Yeah.
Now this stick here, you could kill a vampire with this. This stick here is oak, it's not pine.
Yeah, that one's a monster. Okay, I'm gonna clean this mess up real quick.
This is valve over here. How does this feel? There's no way to really tell what poundage this is. Feel that?
You might be able to put that in. Yes, that's a little hard. You get down that big, thick, heavy stuff, we can rip it down to 1/2 inch thick. If you can get a square enough piece to.
Well, here's one. If you had another piece like that, that'd be perfect.
I'll keep digging. I don't know what's in there, to be honest with you. Most of the time when I use 1/2 inch wood, this to make some stabs out of, and I don't normally have much done.
I got a couple good pieces at home, but you kind of hate to rip up a brand new piece for.
Yeah, I know, for a couple little fillet pieces.
Yep.
That's why I'm sending you to the scrap bin.
Up, almost. So I need a piece that's 1 inch. Well, actually, if we could cut this exactly down the center, that would give me, let's see. I need to look here. Actually, I might be able to get away with 3/8 on this. What's the thickness of my trailing edge there? 3/8 or 1/2?
About 3/8.
Well, then I could get away with 3/8. So if we cut that exactly down the center.
Here's a piece of nerve mount, 1/2 by 3/8. You can sort of feel it on there.
Yeah,
it's 3/8.
Cut this. This is 1 inch. Can you rip that exactly down the center? Because this would be wide enough.
Yeah, sure can. Let me put this drill bit down there.
Okay, so we got and this is good stuff. This is probably 4-pound wood. Unlike some of the stuff in this box.
Well, some of the stuff's from that bargain basement stuff that we got. And some just regular old RC wood.
This has got a couple of holes in it or whatever. If you rip it on this side here, that would probably be best because I could glue that up against the fuselage. And it looks pretty square.
Give me a mark. Where do you want to cut at?
Right straight in the center, in the middle. There's a thumbnail mark right there. Pretty close.
Thumbnail mark. You boys leaving fingernail prints in my wood?
Yeah, and cut it with them holes up on the top there.
Okay.
This Sig Magnum kit, this is not a kit, but I built several of these, and this was a good flying airplane if it was light.
And it's still good today.
In addition to this kit, you will need a 40 to 60 style engine, spinner, propeller, 6.5 ounce stunt tank, pair of 2 1/4 inch main wheels, 3/4 tail wheel, fuel line tubing, 1/8 inch collars if desired, Sig bond, Sig epoxy, clear and color dope, basic modeling tools, pens, knives, drills, sandpaper, brushes, etc. Flying equipment, 18 thousandths by 70 braided steel control lines, and 1.5 volt starting battery, fuel, and etc. There's a whole lot more etc. that's missing off of this.
What meets the eye.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put a 40 in it, just like any kid out there. I always put the biggest motor the kid called for, and maybe a little bit bigger. All right, let's see here. Let's set this back.
This was a good airplane. That really was.
Oh, yeah, it did. Still quite good. Because of the From Kid, I think they called for you using southern sorghum or something like that for the putting the sheeting on the foam wing, and some of those had triple, or I think they only had double cord foam wings.
Yeah, they were double core.
They can come out with triple core. Yeah. Okay, more noise, guys. It seems to be a.
Okay, so these are my fillets. And let's see here. Let's go up or not. Yeah. We're just working on a tabletop tripod, so I didn't bring over all the camera equipment and all that stuff. Too much of a pain. So I need to make these fillets as long as these other ones.
Alright, I'm still making noise, boys. Noise, boys.
And they're not going to be quite as long. That's okay. Somebody's looking that close, standing too close to my airplane. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to taper this like so. Then we'll sand them both together and get them fitted. So they were approximately that width. I do a lot of the PLAR method. So we'll make them 3/4 of an inch. And that's close, 3/4. Let me use my, you got a quarter on you? I use a quarter for a lot of things, like these holes up here, they're a quarter size. The fillet size is a quarter. Like I said in the past, this airplane has lots of doodads. So we have the fillet shape, and I'll sand the flaps to fit these once I get these drilled. I'm going to drill this right there, and right there. What bit are you using?
Well, I don't know, a little one. Smaller than probably what you're going to need.
No, that should be fine. drill me a couple holes right there.
Those are, give Danny one of them if he wants them.
I got the titanium. I think there's enough to make 2 titanium mounts left. That's good.
All the way through?
Yep. That's wire clearance.
I have to change my setup here.
See? My buddy made me some motor mount pads.
Here they need to be countersunk to get the burr off the holes. Oh shoot, you're gonna make me change my setup here.
If you got an 1/8" bit, that'd be better. If you're gonna change the setup.
Yeah, there was one sitting in here somewhere. Missing out of the box.
This is an oddball one. That must be the one off your airplane there.
Yeah. Oh, they're all done in the same. They'll be all identical. Now there still might be a left and a right. You know,
Whatever.
if those holes aren't super exactly center, if you flip it. But if you flip it end for end, it should be the same. But if you flip it the other direction, it could be off just ever so slightly. Then I don't think it is.
It'll be close enough.
How accurate? What do you want to do? Slip this over your control horn?
Yep.
Yeah, parallel. A parallel.
It doesn't have to be that accurate. Just drill some holes in there.
Well, I don't want to change the setup for making them things in case I decide I want to make more of them, so I need to set up a flat surface here. Like the height's not that big of a deal.
If it'll go down far enough. Yeah, it will.
Got these clamps on there holding that. This check key sucks.
Also, I'm gonna need to make a cover for that back there. I'll do that probably at home with my hole template. Get that sanded up. We can't have that hole in the side of the fuselage.
How accurate from the end here does it have to be?
Right where the hole is. Right where the mark is. 3/16. I mean, I can file it or whatever. Close enough. Drill her down. Let her rip. It's all hidden anyway. So now I got a couple holes in these fillets through the end there. Just take the knife blade.
Shut back.
This stuff doesn't have to be super accurate.
All right, guys, lots of noise today. box.
Out in the garage.
Well, that'd be nice if I had $400 for one real nice. High power shot back deal.
Well, we might could work that out. Let me tell you what I did for my club brother. I used to store my motorcycle in his garage, and I couldn't get his garage door open and closed. So I bought him a garage door.
I've been looking at these big 3-horse, 2.5-horse, 3-horse, everything. The problem is I don't have any place to put it. Even in the garage, if I run the ducting, the farther you run that ducting, the less efficient it is. But these things have what looks like a semi-truck air filter on it instead of a bag.
Yeah.
When you turn them on, they don't puff that big burst
Put
of
it
dust
outside
out.
right next to your neighbor.
Yeah, oh yeah, I could see about hearing that. If I did anything, I'd put it right outside this wall and build a little cubicle around it or something and set it right outside that wall. Put a dust devil on it, and because the dust devil helps tremendously, because that siphons out the big debris and a lot of the fine debris first before it hits your filter, and then you go on from there. But you gotta excuse my noise, guys, but I try to clean up a little bit as I go along, so I don't have such a big hassle at the end. Let's see here.
Okay. I guess that'll do it. Maybe a little more sanding. If you guys following this project know that everything that I'm doing on this thing is hand fit. It's, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off.
1,000 times. Where'd you get that roll sandpaper at?
Amazon.
Is that sticky back?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. The 80 grit?
Yep.
Even cooler. That's thicker than what you wanted?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just trying to make it fit perfect. Well, I'm gonna take filler, but
Yeah, but I could have cut it just a tad bit thinner if you needed it a tad bit thinner, but now you got that grease cutting in it, so
yep,
it'll be off center.
it'll be fine.
Does motor mounts work?
With the pads?
Yeah, pads.
Oh yeah, they'll be fine.
Okay. I gotta get a drink. Thirsty. I'll be right back. You need anything on up there?
No. Yeah, I apologize about the phone update. Okay. So now, I'm gonna take these off. Hopefully this is going to work. I need to make sure. Yeah, it looks like it. It'll be fine. They go on there like so, or then we're gonna have to trace this out and sand it. So what I need to do is I need to tack glue these together, and we'll cut them on the bandsaw and sand them together. So can anybody come up with a tip that doesn't plug up? Gee, Manetly. Well, I said tack glue, but I glued them together very well. I mean, that's just the way it is. So now I will cut them on the saw. Leave the line on. Now I have two pieces that will be identical as soon as I sand them. So I need to sand this radius in it, which is a quarter radius. These are, you know, all this stuff is real simple if you know the tricks. It's not a big deal. So I just take a sandpaper roll here, holding them together. And these doodads that I'm putting on here will draw your eye. So they got to be perfect. Okay, now I need a block to sand these. And then we got to taper them.
I'm so tickled I came up with a good solid way of doing that.
What?
So tickled I came up with a good solid way of doing these.
Yeah, I like it.
It's accurate. It's bulletproof. I can't see now. Let's see. I need to mill out these. How much do you think? Better check that. At least 1/8 of an inch. I might make another motor mount.
I could use one.
I might make one with this cutout lower.
Thinner and lower?
Thinner and lower so that I can leave meat all the way around that center piece. It's a 1/2 inch thick now. If I take 1/8 of an inch off of it and make that the overall thickness and get cut down to a piece of 1/8 inch filler piece, be 3/8 there. You'd have meat all the way around it. You still be, no, you wouldn't. Hey, would that cut it about 1/8 of an inch? Cut it down about 1/8 of an inch. And leave this one like it is and just start from scratch.
Well, make two when you're doing it.
That's the problem with these things is that when you start experimenting, it's not that these things are wasted by all means. These things are more than good for a 1 inch tall tank. But when you start using 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/2 inch tank, you need to really leave these down so that you can move that tank up a little higher for that extra thickness in it. Helps you run inverted and upright. I know when you use a plastic tank, you really should probably take 1/4 inch off of them. But I think everybody's just been doing 1/8 inch and leaving it at that. I mean, I could do that with this. I could take an 1/8 inch off of it and then just cap it with this 1/64 and be fine. But I'd rather that center cross grain piece be encapsulated in the maple barrier rather than, you know, one end open, just an L angle on the maple barrier. Have a C-shaped piece. As you can see in this picture, you can see the burnt C-shaped piece. And just make that a little bit thinner, an 1/8 inch thinner, and use, instead of a 1/4 inch piece, use an 1/8 inch piece. 3/8 inch thick back here. Moves the tank up 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I think that's the better way.
Okay, I have made this doodad. That's the flat fillet. Now I need to taper it. So I can't do both of those at the same time. I probably could. So I'm going to have to do that by eye.
No guy's got any maple motor mounts material.
No, I don't know a guy ain't got any maple.
What's that, 5 foot long? And 3 foot. 5 foot.
You know, when I go to the hobby shop, I weigh that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I didn't have that option because I had these big slabs that came out of scrap from, they did all these handrails and then paint stained them. Painted this beautiful maple. They painted it. There's all bumper rails and handrails and stuff in this whole hospital they replaced with this maple. And then painted this stuff, man. I was just sick. But I pulled this stuff out of the trash because these are just cutoffs. And so I just spent a day at that time over at Dad's with a planer and a table saw and started cutting up a bunch of whatever I could get out of it. And I ended up with about 20 pieces 5 foot long and half by 3/8. I got me a lifetime supply of maple motor mounts. Let's see here. How long do you want these pieces? The length of this?
Yep.
Long enough?
Yep.
About a foot.
I can always whack off what I don't want.
Yeah. They're a little over about 13 inches.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm airfoiling these pieces. They don't have to match the flap perfectly because they're longer than the flap. They just need to be airfoiled. This is a signature Warden doodad. So, what it looks like is that. It don't take long.
This is going to be a noisy day. Lots of machinery running.
So now I'll do the other one. All I do is take a pencil, make a center mark here. It takes no time at all on a big sanding block with 80 grit on it. Just put pressure on the end that you want to take off. We'll make this fit when it's on the airplane. Hold her square. The Bob Ross of sanding. We want to make them the same though, so we'll hold them up and make sure that we're getting them close. Yeah, they're close. What time is it?
11:30.
I'm hungrier than normal.
I'm gonna cut as many of these as I can right now. Make noise here. What's possible?
That ain't noisy. And if it is, you guys are watching the wrong channel because we need to get some work done. Okay, so this one here cuts back on that end. This one here is going to be cut back on this end. You really can't worry about this little tail too much because it's not hard. It'll flake off or whatever, but you're going to mold that in with superfill anyway. Make sure that your little groove is big enough to not interfere with the wire. Can't see it anyway, so it don't much matter. Well, we got a half an hour, Gary Sinclair says, of update.
Okay. Half an hour, wow.
Yeah, really. Okay. I'm gonna get a pen. Where do you keep the pens, John? Over here? Stick pins?
The drawer where the Dremel stuff is at. There's the little fine pins in there, and there's 3 pins. Oh, man.
I just think one together. One of these. Use one of these instead. I think those I think those pins are surgical pins, aren't they?
I always call them MAP pins. They're super fine. I like them because they're such a fine little wire on them. They don't hardly leave any hole.
Should have brought over my jig for PA.
Yeah. You gotta sort of watch that because there's no PAs out there to be had hardly.
Super Tiger 60, exactly the same.
They're the same as the 75. They're not the
Right.
same as the 61 or the 60 or 65.
Right. That's what I meant. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm not gluing these on. I'm just getting a reference so I can cut and sand my flap. Go down some.
Gotta get them datum lines right. Okay, let's see here.
Go down some more.
1/8 inch. 1/8 inch bit.
Okay, so now I'm gonna take my flap, put one hinge in it. Oh, gotta have the right one. Doodads, you gotta have the doodads. Okay, I need a pencil. Okay. Mark it out. Ah, damn. This is always difficult. This is always difficult. Oh, I need that quarterback.
Still waiting right there where you left it.
So I've made the mark on there. Not even close to where I originally had it. Well, that don't work. Where's the plug for this?
That one you just had in your hand, you gotta pull that little piece out.
Oh. Good luck. Here. Yeah, smart ass.
Twist and pull.
over here, you know, he's got the power tools. That's why I waited to do this until I got here. What happened to that sanding stick I was using there? Because could I do this by hand? Absolutely. Do I want to? No.
Will it take more time?
Yeah. And it's not quite as good. So we don't know if it's going to fit, so I've cut it big. And we'll hand sand. Let's see if you guys can see what I'm doing, maybe. Yeah. So this is put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. There we are. It's a good thing I left it big.
Yeah.
I left the line way on and it's really close. So we'll go to the other side and work on that one. Yeah. See?
Oh yeah, that's looking good. It's a little tight, that's fine.
You see my controls work because the elevators are heavier than the flaps. And you won't get that with Kevlar hinges.
Where are you getting this Kevlar hinge stuff from?
Doran.
Oh, yeah, but it's floppy.
His springy hinges.
I guess after a while they might.
No way they're going to be as loose as
I
that.
don't know. The problem with any kind of springiness is because there's an electric airplane, and with electric airplane you don't have the vibration that breaks the friction
Right.
of the motor. So if you're making electric airplanes, you literally have to make everything fall floppy like this.
I had them like that, and they're still. They never can find their water level.
Right here.
That ain't it. Because Walker's does it.
Why don't we tape a piece of 16th inch music wire on the leading edge and try it like that, or a piece of carbon or something flat.
You
1/8 inch.
You can do what you want. I've been running flat stabs for a long time.
I've been too, and they can work equally, just about equally as well as a airfoil. I think airfoil's the best, but they're harder to line up. One thing you can do to make them line up easier, because you're saying that if you're making them solid, you're sanding them to shape, is don't do anything with this part that's inside the fuselage. Keep it square and full thickness inside the fuselage. Mark your fuselage size, halfway point, and all that stuff. And do not sand that area. That gives you a flat level reference. And center line everything. Center line everything.
Did I get it parallel?
By Jeb, I think he's got it.
Of course, you don't know. When you start painting it, it could twist.
It could very well twist, absolutely. Well, our biggest thing here is what we tried to do here when we're gluing all this stuff in is not use any weight. It's okay to put a pin or two in it just to sort of hold it. But you want it sort of floating when you glue that in, and that's why you put this top and bottom block on there first, is that if that does twist the fuselage any, this ain't glued in solid. because it'll twist it with the fuselage. It is glued in solid. I never weighed anything down. I never weight anything down. At the most, maybe one of these little building weights that Tom Morris has, just to hold something in place. And if you got to force it, if you got a boat to fit it in there, it's too tight. Yeah, you can't bow anything. It's got to just fit just right. And if it takes one little half a swipe with a piece of sandpaper, so be it. Take that swipe and do it right. This is coming out nice. You just tack these on here.
No, they're on there.
They're on there.
They're where they go.
Well, you got a lot of fun ahead of you. You got lots and lots of sanding.
Oh yeah.
It's a good thing you like sanding.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You're gonna have all this sanding. It doesn't matter what you build, whether it's this airplane or that one. You're gonna have a lot of sanding. He got a little bit more because all these little details that he's putting in it, but.
Pull that level. That should be close. Maybe. Back there. Yeah, pretty close. I'm just getting the flap cut out.
Now this elevator is sort of depends on which side you put your blocks on as to where it's going to sit at.
That's why you run two.
Yeah.
Find it center. 2 sticks. Doodads.
By golly, then you got it.
Got to have the doodads.
All right. Speaking of doodads, doing the fluctuating thingamabobs. Okay, I need to make me a stop.
Now, when you're doing these, make sure you leave plenty of room to hand fit. I mean, I'm using the disc sander here, and it takes a lot off quick. See what happens. We shall see. Now what I'll do with these is I'll CA the end here. Don't worry about papering. Any luck? It'll be close. And if not, you got to add. Because trust me, these doodads, if they don't look right, you wasted your time. And by all means, they best not rub. There we go. See how they look. Yeah, that one rubs. So I need to cut it. I need to go over to the line. That's okay. That's okay. He's got plenty of taking off tools, but not a whole lot of adding on tools. Yeah, that's a fact. So what I'll do here is I won't disc sand it, I'll just hand sand it. I have better control over the block here than I do the disc. And it won't take many swipes. Put it on, take it off. Put it on, take it off. And the biggest doodad to go on here can't go on until after the nose is fiberglass. So we're going to be getting after that in the next week. We'll be doing a cow. I might start it this weekend at home. Nope, still tight. So I need to take a little more off the end there. This one needs to, I guess it needs to come down to the line on both sides. Because you want about, I would say, it's 32nd of an inch clearance. All the way around, evenly, all the way around. Not a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, you gotta have clearance.
But if you pick a measurement, let's say it's a 1/16 of an inch, they all better be a 1/16 of an inch. You know, if you'd have made that trailing edge of pocket hinge, along with that hinge setup you had there, that would have been the slickest of the slickest.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, wasn't it?
Come on. Okay, there we go. Let's see how it looks now. Still needs a little bit more, and it's both sides. Do this side a little bit. I can see a spot over there on my wingtip. Flap hinge is going to give me a little concern. We'll take the line off. Let's go up to the line on this one too. Well, do you think DeWine is ever going to let us out of prison?
Well, if he has his way, he'll never have you out ever.
Come on. Okay, that one's perfect. That one is perfect. Okay, so we got to work on this one a little bit more. A couple swipes of the paper on that. As soon as I get it done, I'll show you guys what I'm working on. Just details. Doodads. At this point, be very careful not to oversand, because if you oversand this, you're done. Make a new one. I gotta get me a soda.
I wish I could make that in one pass. If I had a higher speed, I might be able to do that. This slow speed of this milling machine, I gotta make about 3 passes for it.
Okay, there's what I've been working on right there. These doodads right here. Of course, they'll all get molded in with superfill. I guess I could glue them on now.
Make sure they're level,
Yeah.
even.
They go right. Yeah, they're not. They're up too high. Go down. They go way. That looks better already. Damn, center it up on that. Where you?
needs a little sand and they get to draw in there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. At least from the rear. As long as it looks okay from.
You're on the muffler stinger.
I was wondering what the heck was holding it. Looks about the same when they were sort of hitting on that blanket, and it looked about the same on both sides. Didn't matter where it was at, just on. But you want to get it right when you're centered. Which this has got a little droop in. You got to realize, you know, all these airplanes end up with the elevator down just a little, ever so slightly.
Yeah.
You get done trimming them, so you gotta, you know, whether that's a 16th or an 1/8 of an inch right here to trailing is down. And with the flaps level.
I wish I would have tapered these a little more, but it'd be fine.
Rots and rots of sand and man, rots of sand. I don't know, I don't know how the real one, the original was done.
Just like this.
When it comes to these things, how they were shaped or anything like
Just
that.
like this.
They were just square, they weren't rounded or the same thickness as this, sort of tapered back.
You can't, because this is 3/8 and this is half, or 5/8. How can you make that?
Yeah, I know.
You're stepping it. This is 5/8, this is 3/8, so that'd be fine.
Be fine. By the time you shape it all up and you relieve the edges and everything, it'll look good.
So much work. And the Nats is coming, but I do have one Nats airplane. That's a Tucker.
Yeah. Well, you got a couple airplanes that are more than capable of flying at Nat's level if you need to fly them.
Right, I got my high roller.
I mean, all you're going for here is glory points, you know, just
Cool
points, but which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against that. You know, sometimes you get in the top 10, that half a point, 1 point, and appearance points can make a difference.
Top 10 finish for me is not in the cards.
Winning and losing, well, not. Yeah. I can't say that it isn't in you. What I can say, it ain't in you if you don't practice.
That's right.
You gotta practice.
Did you go to, was there a club meeting Tuesday?
First weekend of the month, there was one.
At the field, I'm talking about.
No. The next club meeting after the time change will be at the field, provided the weather is good enough to be at the field. If the weather isn't good enough, we'll have an indoor meeting. Okay, I'm gonna make noise. That sound.
I'm just tackling these now to make sure that, you know, one drop. And once I spot it and I like it, we'll glue it on. This one, that one there is a little down, I think.
Yeah, I'm making noise. Gonna be a lot of noise because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these things to do.
Do them all at once.
I can't. And I'm not going to. I got this set up to cut the groove. And if I can cut it full depth, and I don't think I can cut it full depth, I think it's gonna make that little 1/8 inch bit deflect too much. Unless I really go slow with it. So I'm gonna try one and see. But still,
Morning, Alan.
that's an 1/8 inch by 3/8 of an inch, an 1/8 inch by 1/4 inch deep, 1/8 inch wide, 10 inch long groove in each piece. I need a left and a right. If you don't make a left and right, don't come out right. Okay, here goes noise.
DJ gonna get the DRO? No problem. You got an old integrated unit. The round column, not a square column. And the jewelry pop-up on it. Hardly worth it.
So you just gotta do what next best thing is, and that's stuff.
We got a little lamp Well, you done making noise? We're gonna do lunch or what?
I'm done making for 1 out of 10 pieces. Yeah, it's 8:15, 18 after, on 20 after
1,
12.
Well, let's do lunch. I'm starving.
Sounds good to me.
We've been on 2 hours, 28 minutes, which I think 28 minutes was off the clock. I'll go ahead and clean that up when I get back, take out the dead air. What happened was they just, randomly do an update. They don't ask you, they just do it. Ridiculous. About enough to make a fella pissed off. I don't want your stupid updates for security. Yeah, security for who?
Yeah.
What?
We got 10 minutes, we got 15 minutes, or what we got?
We can go now, whatever.
Well, whenever you get things shut down.
All right, guys, we're going to go to lunch, and we'll be back after lunch for an hour or so. Appreciate you watching. Sorry about the little screw up with the updates, but
Yeah, that's pretty bad, isn't it?
yeah.
Just arbitrary right in the middle of something, just shut it down. At least I'll do some kind of little warning, or say, okay, you can schedule this to do at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, when you're sleeping. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. We'll see you in an hour. See ya.